I would say Beau's gift to the world was his heart. He had such a big heart, and people gravitated towards him because of it.
The family of a tech CEO found dead more than a year after he went missing following a text to 911 wants answers about his death. Welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. I'm Angenette Levy. Beau Mann has been missing since November of 2021, and since that time, his family has been searching for him, wanting answers. Mann texted 911 from an Uber in Los Angeles after a trip to a 7-Eleven. According to published reports, the LAPD says Mann never responded to their follow-up requests. Police in Santa Monica issued a statement saying they found skeletal remains on April 25th, and the coroner identified them as Beau Mann's. That was just last month. Work is underway to determine how Mann died, but right now, there are really more questions than answers. Joining me to discuss the disappearance and death of Beau Mann is his aunt, Rhonda Mann. Rhonda, welcome to Sidebar. Thank you for coming on under these circumstances.
Thank you for having me and for your interest in Beau.
Rhonda, tell me, how are you and the rest of Beau's family doing after receiving word that his remains have indeed been located in an area near where he was dropped off by this Uber?
It's been a very long year and a half. So I think, when somebody's that you love is first missing, you don't know where they are, they're not in touch. They're not doing the things that they did almost daily to be in touch with members of the family. You start to think, oh my gosh, what has happened? Does he need help? And then after a period of time, you file the missing persons report. You work with the police. After a period of time, as the time goes on and ticks on, you're just feeling like, gosh, how is this going to end? And after a year and a half, you kind of have the thought that maybe it's not going to end very well. But that doesn't really help you when you hear that remains have been found for your loved one. And while it provides a little bit of closure, I would say that until we know what happened, it's going to be really hard to feel closure on this.
No doubt. And one of the most concerning parts of this is just the fact that Beau indeed dialed 911 or texted 911 while he was in this Uber. And, he was obviously looking for help. You don't do that unless you feel like you need some help for whatever reason. Has the family received any answers about what police did after that text to 911 was sent? Because, there's been some reporting out there that the text was received by the dispatch center, but what happened after that, we don't really know.
So what we have been told is that 911 text was received. The police department did confirm that. They said that they reached out a number of times to that phone, and they did not receive a response.
And by reached out, does that mean calling, texting back? I mean, was there any effort to ping the phone? Do you know?
I have no idea what reaching out means. I do know that they did not try to find him. There was nobody sent to try to find him. And to me, if you're going to have a way to text the police so that it's nice and quiet in case an assailant is with you, or who knows why you're texting instead of calling, but there could be a very good reason. If you're not going to respond to those texts, that's a problem. Simply trying to reach out back isn't enough. It's got to be a system where you can locate that phone and make sure somebody goes and does a check and sees what's going on.
Before Beau got into that Uber, we know that he had been seen at a 7-Eleven. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so police did confirm, and there's video of Beau in the 7-Eleven. So he got into the Uber, went from his apartment to the 7-Eleven, was in the 7-Eleven for a period of time, picked out a number of items, including ice and toothpaste and a coffee and that sort of thing, and got back in the Uber. And, he looks fine, looks like normal Beau in the 7-Eleven. Um, got into the Uber and then a very short time later had texted 911.
I'm assuming the Uber driver, I've seen some mixed reporting. I'm assuming police have spoken to the Uber driver. I saw one quote in something that said that the Uber driver didn't remember seeing him. So it sounds like we don't have a lot of clear information about that.
Yeah, so we do know the police did reach out to that Uber driver, but there was no information after that. Basically, it was not a good lead for them. And what they told the family was that because there was no sign of a crime, that really there wasn't much that they could do unless information came to them that would lead them to think otherwise.
But just the fact that Beau texted 911 to me is very concerning. You don't text 911 or call 911 unless you need help or are in distress.
Right. So this was a man who was very much a family guy. He loved his sister, his brother, his nephews and nieces were so important to him. He was in touch with his sister almost daily. Uh, and he had a company that he founded for people with addiction this was just a huge part of his life. This was not a guy that had set out that day to decide he was going to be missing. This was a guy that went to a I'm sorry, a 7-Eleven to buy some items that made a lot of sense for traveling, got into an Uber and texted 911. So that is very concerning to me. I don't, the fact that he was missing was concerning to begin with, but the fact that he did text 911 and that was confirmed by police, that is extremely concerning.
Most definitely. And you and the family deserve a lot of answers. You deserve a concrete answer as to what went on and why there may or may not have been more follow-up to that 911 call for sure. Tell me, if you would, a little bit about Beau. You said he was a family guy. So what would you like people to know about him?
Beau was, I would say Beau's gift to the world was his heart. He had such a big heart, and people gravitated towards him because of it. He was the kind of guy that could walk into any room, any crowd, and not know anybody. But by the time he left, everybody knew him and wanted to be his friend. And he, in turn, wanted to be their friends. He's just such a warm soul and very interested in people and what they were doing and what they were up to. And in, the second half of his life, he completely dedicated himself to helping others and to what is now was at the time of he was missing his company Sober Grid, which was something he founded, an idea he had to start an online community of people to help people stay in active recovery, in recovery, for as by having people help them stay there. People who knew the situation, people who have been there before, kind of wrap their arms around you when you're having a problem or you think, gosh, I might go back to using drugs or alcohol. And so that's what Sober Grid's mission was, and that's what really energized him. Between that and his nieces and nephews who just adored him and he spent a lot of time with and was constantly checking in on and sending videos to, and really, loving Uncle Beau, was always there. So, this is what I want people to know about Beau is his life was about other people. And since all this happened with him, we've heard from hundreds and hundreds of people that we've never met who knew Beau, and just loved him and can't believe that this has happened to him.
And I think that we should point out too, I mean, I think that's so thoughtful and giving and generous. The fact that he's founding and setting up, creating Sober Grid, and he is somebody who struggled with addiction. So he's had his own past struggles with this, but then he's also trying to help others by creating it.
That's correct. So in his early days, he had some drug issues and was in rehab a few times. Had the idea for Sober Grid because he was at a film festival and was by himself, wanted to talk about the movies with some other people, but it's really tough. He said, Rhonda, I can't, it's just tough to walk into a bar when you're in another town. You don't know anybody. How can you find other sober people like to hang out with? And so he had this idea of actually a grid that you could sign up for, and you could be on the grid. So you could say, okay, here I am. Oh, there are some other Sober Grid members around me that I can go connect with. And so that was sort of the first idea. And then as he started to formulate it in his head, he thought, boy, this community is going to be really a strong point for people, and it's going to help keep them in recovery. And that's what you see on the Sober Grid app, is you see people saying, I'm really struggling right now. And then you see all these people, come right in and say, it's okay. Here's some things that I did to try to help. And then he added to that some real services with coaching, people who are trained, who have been through this before, now trained as coaches. And you can also on there ping a coach and get somebody to speak with you. So all of this has no doubt saved thousands of lives.
And I think it's fantastic. Rhonda, the Santa Monica Police Department is now investigating, and an autopsy, a forensic examination of Beau's remains will be conducted to try to determine how he passed away. If people have information, reach out to the Santa Monica PD, I would assume.
Correct. They are the ones who are now taking charge of the investigation. They've been very helpful so far. We're really hoping they're going to go back and look at anything that the LA police did, and that they will really help us try to find out what happened to Beau.
Well, Rhonda Mann, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar podcast. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.